It's the spookiest month of the year, and we're kicking it off with a bit of potent supernatural storytelling from, of all places, Senegal. We're going to be talking about Saloum on this episode of the Hour of the Wolf Reviews. Welcome to the Hour of the Wolf Reviews, a spin-off of the long-running radio show Hour of the Wolf on WBAI 99.5 FM in New York. I'm Dan Persons. I am the media critic on the show, and what I am doing here with this podcast is pretty much extending what I do there. There's often not enough time to delve as deeply into a film as I would like. And so, in a little bit of an unusual format here, first I will play you the original review that aired on Hour of the Wolf, and then I'm going to come back in to give some further thoughts that hopefully will deepen your appreciation of the film. So this week, as I mentioned in the opening, we're going to be talking about a Senegalese action horror film called Saloum. It's a very interesting film. Let me run you the review as it originally ran on air, and then come join me for some further thoughts. Here we go. Hour of the Wolf Review, air date October 3rd, 2022, Saloum. Take one. I'm Dan Persons, and this is my Hour of the Wolf Review. The new Senegalese horror film, Saloum, which is now playing on Shudder, has a lot on its mind. Maybe too much. In 2003, a trio of mercenaries extract a drug dealer from Guinea-Bissau during a coup. Their plane is forced to land in an isolated area of Senegal, and the mercenaries and their cargo take shelter in a community whose quote-unquote benevolent leader seems to be hiding a secret. Maybe a few secrets, some connected to the dark history of this war-torn region, some extending to more supernatural forces. I have to admit I was a little confused by Saloum. Director and co-writer Jean-Luc Herbelot, I think, is trying to make a connection between the human toll of a war waged with child soldiers and the malign, murderous spirits that manifest in a village near the community. But the elements that bind the two feel a little muddled. I don't discount that part of that may be my complete lack of knowledge of both the politics and the culture of the region. What's more clear is Herbelot's attempt to explore how time is not always able to wash away the sins of the past, nor should it be. One member of the community notes how the mercenaries have become legendary for fighting on the side of the people, while the community's leader wages a private war against poachers, and yet none of these actions absolve them from moral debts that are long overdue. Herbelot bookends the film with an analogy liking revenge to a river into which humans wade, and pairs it with the shot of a child soldier, pistol in one hand, shackles in the other, entering the water. It's a somber image that contrasts markedly with the Tarantino-esque action stylings of the film overall, and makes Saloum a supernatural tale with a deeper intent. It's an action film where actions have significant consequences. For Hour of the Wolf, I'm Dan Persons. And that was the original review there, but don't go anywhere. After the break, I'm back with some more thoughts. You might be able to tell I was a little on the fence about Saloum, although my concerns were mostly nits. The special effects for the malign spirits are sometimes good, sometimes not so good. You can tell they took a bunch of actors who were actually on set and just slapped a maelstrom of swirling black particles over them. There's a character named Saloum and another named Suleiman, thank you very much. More pertinent, the mechanics of the supernatural incursion aren't clear to me. Early in the film, a couple of characters pay a visit to that neighboring village to deliver some food. I think it's food, not really important. At that point, we see the villagers as shambling humans with mutilated ears. Later on, after a certain character dies, no spoilers, we return to that village and see it infested with the spirits. And yeah, you can put 2 plus 2 together and figure out that these were the villagers. But were they always the spirits kept in check until that certain character died? Did they possess the villagers after the death of that character? After all, the mutilated ears are because the spirits supposedly attack through sound or possess through sound. Here again, I'm confused. And then later in the village, the mercenaries free a cabin full of young boys, presumably child soldiers. But it's not clear why they were imprisoned. I think we're supposed to think that they were being kept in storage as sacrifices to the spirits. Metaphor at work here. But again, I'm not sure. But it is that metaphor that makes all the difference. You know, there was a thing going around for a while about whether there was a double standard in film criticism, whether the big studio mainstream films were being held to a higher standard, and smaller independent films were being let slide for stuff the biggies couldn't get away with. And I can only speak for myself, but I think the short answer is hell yeah. And for good reason. The big studios got all the money and the latest equipment and the mammoth crews. But because so much money gets plowed into those films, the bean counters get a little nervous that they're going to see a return on their investment and tend to exert more influence into their product. And the result, you can guess, is something that's polished and impressive and just a little too safe. Not always, but frequently. Indie productions, meanwhile, don't have as many people looking over the filmmaker's shoulders, and so they have more luxury to take chances, be more adventurous in their production approach and storytelling techniques. The downside is that with less money, you don't have access to cutting-edge technology, nor a core of uncredited authors doing rewrites. So the production can look a little dodgy, the narrative may be a little choppy or not completely hold together logically. And you know what? That's okay. This is art, not science, and I will take something a little rough around the edges that pushes the envelope over something sleek and refined and doesn't try to rock the boat. To be clear, aside from those dodgy special effects, the production side of Saloum is fine. The performances and character interactions are great. The cinematography by Gregory Corandi is beautiful. And it's just overall a dynamic and engaging adventure. But what really gets me over the film's shortcomings is that Jean-Luc Herbelot is clearly aiming for something more impactful than just soldiers versus supernatural weirdness. He's bringing us insight into a dark and violent history, a world that doesn't really touch us, but that is the reality for too many unfortunate people. And he reminds us that not all curses involve otherworldly entities invading the souls of mortals. They can be the wounds left from a history of inhumanity, wounds that can never quite heal, that leave clear and permanent scars. I made note in the original review that Herbelot bookends the film with the image of a child soldier entering a symbolic river of vengeance. The more I think of it, the more I feel that bookending was a good tactic. You don't quite grasp its meaning at the head of the film. In fact, it casts a stark contrast with the energetic, Tarantino-like mise-en-scène that the film starts out as. But as the film progresses, as the impact of what's going on and how it's connected to the region's violent past, as Herbelot progressively drains the color from the imagery until it's practically black and white, we come to understand that the story we were sold is not quite the story we're getting, there's more to it, more consequences, more meaning. So yeah, I'll forgive Saloum its minor stumbles, because the tale it tells me is something I need, maybe we all need, to hear and understand. So thank you for listening. If you want to comment, you can write me at hotwolfreviews@upstartcompany.com. And if you love science fiction, fantasy, and enchantment, you should be listening to Hour of the Wolf every Monday at 9 p.m. at WBAI 99.5 FM in New York. Or if you're not in the tri-state area, at WBAI.org. And there's an archive of past episodes there as well. And please subscribe to us, if you haven't already, on your favorite podcast provider: Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Google Podcasts, wherever you're getting your podcasts from. I'm Dan Persons, your host and producer. Theme music is by Johnny Holiday, licensed through Creative Commons. The show was recorded at the studios of the Kindness Institute Consortium. This is an Upstart Company production. See you next week.